Hello, everybody. I hope you're all having a good weekend. So, I haven't done a viewer hangout for a while, so we'll see how this goes. If you're on my Discord server, I'm going to be in the general voice chat. I believe I have a link to join down below. If you get there, you're going to have to message me or message a mod. I really kind of wish I could just go back to having it open. The problem, though, when I kind of have it open, though, is a bunch of people just come on the live stream and like post porn or just scream the N word or something like that. So I'm just gonna head there now, and if anybody on these wants to come on, they can. So let's see here. I'm just gonna let people know. Thoughts on how do you pronounce his name? Bulliard? Oh, that French guy Irene was talking about. I don't know. I haven't watched the latest video, and I haven't like done anything regarding Irene. No, sorry, I haven't watched the latest Irene, and I don't know anything about like who he is. I don't really read much philosophy, to be honest. I used to when I was younger, but just for whatever reason, I kind of lost interest in it over time. Let's see here. Hello, fellow citizens without ties to the federal government or Mossad. Talk about the UAE Oive deal. Let's see here. Second. Do you support gun rights? I'm not as pro gun rights as some people are. Uh, I'm more pro than against. My main issue is there are a lot of people who have the view that there's no actual way to do it, so that mentally ill people don't get their hands on firearms, that there's no like actual way to do it, and that either like nobody has it or everybody has it. I guess kind of thing. Hello?
Hello.
Oh, hey, hello, man. Welcome to the live viewer chill stream.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Hmm.
Um, Love your videos, of course, Arjun.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I I
Oh,
know
we got
I
a
say
few.
that, but I really do actually. It always makes my day when someone says that.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Um, so yeah, I was just talking a bit about. Someone's asking where's the link for the poll I made earlier. It's not. That was I was just showing a rough draft of what the final survey is going to be like. I haven't finalized yet. I just wanted to get some feedback. So, but for gun rights, I do think people have a right to own a firearm for self-defense. My issue is it just seems like a lot of like mentally ill people who shouldn't have access to firearms keep getting access to them, and I do think that's a problem. So man, did you have anything on your mind?
Not really. I guess we can talk about guns if that's what's people are asking about.
Yeah, what do
Um,
you think?
I, I think they're generally fine. There's like the situations where mentally ill people have them. I think it's not a super huge issue for me, but from what I've heard, it's generally decreases rates of violence except for the United States. So like, which is there's other factors. So if you like look at like European countries that allow people to have firearms, usually they have a slightly lower crime rate. Um, but the United States has a certain demographic problems
I
that change that.
I think in the UK the violent crime rate is actually much higher. It's just that people use knives, so the death rate is lower. Um, so I think to a certain extent it kind of depends upon what you're using, but there's a lot of violence in the UK. That's partially why they have like you need like people get ID'd or whatever if they're buying like broom handles or knives or that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Just
I
took a
know.
fat shit. Hashtag finance. I'm out of here.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the UK, like, at least I know in Scotland, they're really strict about knives because Glasgow used to have such a problem with people stabbing each other,
mm-hmm.
which they still do because they still have, like, sectarian issues. But, yeah, they have very strict measures. Like, you can get, like, 15 years for walking around with a knife because the law there assumes that you're going to use it to assault someone. There's no, like, other reasons that you could have. So if you get caught with a knife, the legal assumption is that you were planning on stabbing someone.
No, why would someone like carry a pocket knife, a Swiss Army knife around with them? I mean, the
Yeah.
I
only
mean, there's a
reason,
lot of
obviously.
reasons.
No, I was being
Yeah,
sarcastic.
yeah. It took me a second. I'm sorry. Like I said, I've been in the basic for 2 months, so I'm not really used to sarcasm.
Yeah,
I
but
see.
like, because in Canada, I think you can carry a knife around as long as it's not a switchblade. Something I never really get is states where like it's illegal to carry a switchblade, but it's legal to carry a gun.
In Jersey, you can't have butterfly knives. That's a big no-no. You can get a few years in prison for those.
Right. Uh, but I
I
don't
don't.
know how I feel about stuff like automatic weapons. Um,
I mean, they're fun. That's that's a plus. Um, I see no problem with any kinds of weapons at gun ranges. You know, like if
mhm.
you're gonna have like a business where people just go and fire off guns, really there don't need to be restrictions on what you can have there because you know there are regulations of not taking anything off of the range,
Right.
um,
Yeah, I mean,
both
in order to
legally and in
get
business.
yeah, and in order to get like an automatic firearm, you have to have like a lot of money. Like those firearm licenses are super expensive. So like odds are if you have that type of money, odds are you're probably a pretty well-off person, you're doing all right mentally and you don't have a criminal record. If you have like
Yeah,
an automatic weapon legally, you're probably not a harm to society.
yeah. Unless you happen to be Stephen Paddock and uh, have a bunch of gambling winnings, but you know,
Uh,
one-off cases.
in it like a world where the government wasn't like super evil, I would say like for gun ownership you need to have a license. I mean, just like as a similar to a driver's license, and you have to take like a mandatory safety course, have a background check, and they have to like check with your doctor or something. Um, and
That's
then
pretty much what they do in Jersey.
oh, it
Quite a bit of
is.
states
Oh,
are
okay.
just like that. Yeah, in
Yeah.
New Jersey, you have to take. This may have been partially for hunting, but I know I had to take like a. It was like a 40 page book I had to read, and then I took like an 8 hour long course, got that certified,
Did
got a
you learn
background
anything
check.
from it out of curiosity?
Um, I personally didn't learn any of it because a
Right.
lot of gun safety is common sense. But
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't grow up around guns, you
Right.
probably would learn a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think gun safety is a big thing. I mean, yeah, a lot of that stuff is just common sense. Like, don't point it at people. You know,
You know,
like,
store your ammo and your guns in different safes.
yeah, yeah,
But I don't know
Because
that.
that's I think,
Yeah.
because I'm pretty sure the biggest portion of gun deaths is accidental. Like, it's mostly like people leave a gun underneath their bed and then a kid gets to it. Or, you know, a lot of people just being really disrespectful and letting their family getting hurt.
Well, there's that thing from The Simpsons: cleaning my gun with the safety off, cleaning my gun with the safety off. I'd imagine a
yeah.
lot of cases it's people don't realize there's one in the chamber after they've taken a
Hmm.
magazine out and they like accidentally shoot themselves.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about gun safety is like you should always assume that it's loaded.
Right.
So don't point it at people. Don't point it at yourself. But yeah, like people just being stupid with it. And if you have like kids in your house, like you should be very careful just with how you store that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because children will, if they're young enough to think it's a toy or not really know what they're doing, and they can really hurt themselves. So, like if you have a child, not that it needs to be like a regulation, but people should just be very careful with that kind of thing.
Right. I mean, as somebody says, the elephant in the room is that certain people of certain backgrounds have guns.
Yeah, there's that. I that's what I was kind of getting at with the demographic difference with America. Like, if you removed, if you just looked at white people, like we'd have a gun violence rate around the same level as like European countries that allow guns, but we don't have just that population. So.
I remember
Yeah,
one
we
of
have
my
unique circumstances.
remember one of my all-time favorite BBC articles is sociologists baffled as to why gun-awash Iceland has no violent crime. And like, yeah, it's the mystery Scooby-Doo couldn't solve.
So yeah, pure mystery that Iceland is a functioning country.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I think
Iceland
I
is kind of a
saw.
shithole, but in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean it's a
But
bit of a backwater, but it's not like terrible place.
it has really high rates of like STDs.
Oof. Yeah. Well, I know a lot of Scandinavian countries do because they have really weird like sexual habits.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're really like it's an entire nation like of people who are too socially awkward to talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So the only time people have sex is when they're like drunk and not being careful about it. So you end up with people spreading around STDs when really,
Mousetopia.
Oh, sorry, I
yeah.
just have to comment on something. So, somebody says it's because of the fish and the cold climate, obviously. No, unironically, I did some work in education in the past, and they kept talking about how Finland had the highest test results in Earth. And honestly, they said, like, fish soup was the reason. They couldn't, like, they couldn't figure it out. And they're like, yeah, they're like, it's weird because, like, blacks in America do really bad on tests, but like Vietnamese do well on tests, and like they're really poor, and it's weird. I'm like, yeah, it's a mystery there.
Yeah. I mean, you know the PISA test statistics. That's always one that gets me.
Mm-hmm.
Where like if you just take like America looks really bad if you take it as a whole, but if you look at like Asian students, for example, like they're on the same level as like South Korea, and white students in America, are, if we were in Europe, would be like the second or third highest, depending on the year. But yeah, like in
Just a
general,
big mystery.
big mystery, big mystery.
Maybe we'll find out one day.
One day.
As far as Asians in Western countries, I feel like part of the reason they probably perform better on average is because I think virtually all of them come from two-parent homes.
Yeah, they all come from two-parent homes. They all live in like rich urban centers.
Also, their parents are very involved in their lives. I think like they push them too far, but like I worked at a school once that was like 70% Asian, and like all the kids were like really well groomed, and they like the parents would drop them off and they'd make them go to extra school, and I think they go too far, but definitely I think the high parental involvement definitely helps.
Yeah, I mean, one of my friends, because the area I grew up in has a lot of Asian people, and one of my friends does like tutoring,
Mm-hmm.
and he always talks about like all of the kids he tutors are like Indian or Asian,
Mm-hmm.
and their parents are having them study for. Okay, in America we have the SAT, but we also have the PSAT, which is
Right.
just a practice test to see how well you will probably do on the SAT, so you know what to study. It doesn't matter. Colleges don't see it. It doesn't matter for any admissions or like your grades in school. But like the parents will have these kids study for that just because when it's literally a pointless test. But that's how like involved they are in their kids' lives, which might be a bit excessive, but it's certainly better than the other extreme.
It's better than like 80% of
Better to be
people,
so included than to be so far removed.
like
Yeah.
80% of people not having fathers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
But yeah.
yeah. I know most of the Asian kids I knew in school, their parents made them take like violin or like piano and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was big around my hometown. A lot of people took instruments that from like the Filipino community. So, yeah, that definitely was a big focus, and I think that helps because instruments
Oh.
have been proven to like help people with like mathematics and critical thinking in a lot of ways.
Cosmic Cat is
Because
just
once
biting
you
me.
like get really good at an instrument, you're just very good at recognizing patterns and then applying the same logic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How's your cat, Arjun?
Oh, she's doing good. She's just biting me at the moment. There we go. I'm just getting out a fishing rod. So there might be a bit of a bell in the background. But yeah, I have a wall. I have a like suction cup hammock set up on my window, so she sleeps there for like half the day. But she's a good girl. She just gets a little. She gets a little bitey, but she's just playing.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I gotta go. My XO has a brief for us, so I gotta get to my platoon. But nice
Okay.
talking with you,
Oh,
John.
Yeah,
yeah.
thanks. Thanks.
Good luck,
to
man.
have you
Have
on.
fun.
All right, catch you later. Ciao.
How about you bite her? I could try that. It might
Oh,
just.
be like Boogie, bite your pet.
What? He bit his pet?
You haven't seen that clip? It's Boogie. I think it was his dog. It's when he got his fake teeth, and he was like playing with his dog, and like I think was like trying to play bite it, but didn't realize his teeth were as big as they were, so he just actually just bit his dog. Yeah.
I mean, like as far as cats go, it's they're not. It's like in her case, she's just playing. I mean, other cats have like fur and they have very like tough, flexible skin, so it doesn't hurt
Mhm.
them, but it kind of. It was kind of funny the other day because she bit me, and there was like this big smear of blood on my hand, and I was like, I don't think she broke the skin. And then she was yawning, and there was like blood coming out of her mouth. I'm like, oh my god, one of her fangs is gone. And
Mhm.
like, oh wait, cats have baby teeth, which I hadn't actually realized, but
Yeah.
that was all it was. So
I see Pseudo. You're here too. What's going on?
Nothing much. Just organizing some stuff. What about you?
Oh, not much. Just asking.
oh, by the way,
Yeah.
sorry, just random. I don't know when else we'll talk about this. If anybody hasn't played Persona 4, Persona 4 Golden on Steam is really good. They did a really good job with the graphics. The really nice thing is you can use a save editor, so you can like change the date. Just because you never have time to do anything in like Persona, so you can use that to just like go back and make sure you get all your social links done. But
I've never played Persona. I really don't know much about it. What kind of game is it? Like, what genre do you do?
it's a JRPG slash social simulator game.
Mhm.
Have you played any of the? It's actually it's funny because Fire Emblem Three Houses is basically a bit of a copy, or took a lot of inspiration from Persona.
I played Fire Emblem, like one of my friend's copies once, but I haven't played much of it.
Yeah, I've been a fan of Fire Emblem since 7 came out in, I think it was 2003, the
Mhm.
first Western release. But
Yeah.
it's funny because Nintendo had kind of forgot about it for like for a while, but then they're like, oh wait, we have this thing that's more geared towards adults. Let's just actually develop this.
Mm. Oh, Arjun, what's your thoughts on Kamala Harris being the VP pick?
Well, I was hoping they'd get like someone who was like black to be the VP pick. I don't know why they chose like an
Yeah.
Indian woman.
Yeah, that's what I've always said. I'm always like, she's just Indian. She's just playing up being black for the clout.
Okay, let
Those
me
Indian
let me
people
find
are
the
smaller
picture of
than
Kamala
traffic.
because I think she like uses Kamala Harris' sister because she is, I believe, I forget if it's her father or her mother that's 100% like Indian from India, and
I think it's
her,
her mom is, yeah.
yeah, and then her father's a mulatto.
Yeah, he's half black and half white from Jamaica. Um,
So she she's not even African American. She's like her black side's Jamaican.
There's
yeah,
a
yeah,
picture of, let me find another picture of her sister. So her sister just looks like Indian. She doesn't look like black at all.
yeah,
But it's funny because the maybe this is actually a case, one of the rare cases of internalized racism, because blacks tend to have the one drop rule.
hmm
So let's see. So yeah, there's a couple pictures of them. They just don't really, but it's the one drop rule. So
yeah,
I think
yeah,
though I was kind of, if I had to have put money, I figured she was probably going to be the person he would pick.
yeah,
Because I don't know really else who he has that would tick the boxes and isn't like a complete retard. So,
yeah. I
mhm.
was kind of expecting. I thought Susan Rice might have been an option. She was the one who is like big in foreign policy, which probably would have been a better choice in my opinion. At least she's competent. Kamala Harris is just the most like chameleon, you know, take whatever position works kind of politician. Um,
Mhm.
and I guess chameleon in how she presents herself too, but that's another thing.
Like how she
Um,
was super, like, let's lock up every black person. And then
yeah,
now she's like, no, I'm totally on board with BLM.
yeah. I mean, I know quite a few people who are like pretty left wing, and
Hmm.
all of them are upset about this.
Right.
I don't think I know. I think like yeah, I don't know very many people who are happy with this decision. It's being hyped up in the media as like a historic choice, which I guess, but who cares really?
I think it's bad, but it might be the least bad he had. It's kind of funny that like the Democrats literally, well, to quote Serp, four skeletons in the Antichrist was like all they could come up with to take
Yeah,
on Trump, and Trump
yeah.
is
Out of
like
like
very very like vulnerable.
he is because the thing about Trump, as much as like we can appreciate the fact that he like cracks down on immigration,
Does
and
he?
is
Well, he tries,
I
I
mean more
guess.
so than like yeah he at least tries. He's better
Hmm.
than like Romney would have been if he had won in 2012.
Well, Romney
Even
like
if he's
joined
not
Black
perfect.
Lives Matter, so
Yeah. But the thing about Trump is he's in a, I think, in a pretty weak position because a bunch of people are upset over handling of the coronavirus. Um, and I think personal conduct, a lot of people are a bit fed up with, is a problem for him. So really, like, all they needed to do was come up with someone who was like well spoken and competent, and they couldn't do that.
they got
Instead, they
fucking
got
corn pop.
Dementia Man. Yeah.
Let's see here. Do people think they threatened or bribed the other Democratic candidates to drop out? No. Serp's theory on this that he's talked to me is that they were. It looked like Bernie was going to win, so the Democrat establishment basically just told everybody else to drop out because Bernie can't still win, and Biden just happened to be the person who was the easiest for them to all throw in behind. So
Yeah, because I remember that, and like everyone dropping out right before Super Tuesday, which was really weird, you know, especially like Klobuchar, that lady,
mhm.
Minnesota woman, because her state was on Super Tuesday, and she was set to win. And if she had stayed, like usually candidates stay in to at least try to win their home state, even if it's kind of hopeless in the big picture. But she didn't do that, which was probably the most suspicious one. But yeah, I don't think the party even really had to threaten people. I think it was more of like a, hey, get out of here, and we'll give you some more donation money for your reelection.
Yeah, like cuz
Like,
like cuz there's no reason to not stay in for Super Tuesday. I mean, you could just stop spending money and just let it
mhm.
coast and just see, and maybe you get enough delegates that you can cut some sort of deal.
Yeah, you could get to be like vice president or, demand some position in the cabinet, you know.
Hmm.
But no, they didn't do that. Yeah, I think, the party really didn't want Sanders to win. Um, so, and Biden was the most obvious choice, even if, he, no one was really, he wasn't really most people's first choice, but people settled. Also, Bloomberg, that was a funny one to me.
I like when Trump
Um,
made fun of him.
See, Bloomberg was actually pretty based back in his old days, at least on crime. Um, but he really is just kind of like, uh, I mean, he was like a rhino at the time, like not a real conservative, just in it for the money.
No, I think what happened was he was a Democrat, but the Democratic Party was had nominated like someone like really left wing, so he just took
Hmm.
the Republican nominee and ran as a, I guess you could call him a centrist. So he would
Right? Yeah.
have a nomination.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know how long Biden will stay in power. It's funny because a friend of mine wrote a book that he never published, but in it, the Antichrist is running for president of the world, and they're trying to find the worst candidate possible to run against him. So they run
Hmm.
John McCain hooked up to a life support machine against him, and Biden's kind of like
Yeah.
that. Although Biden's a lot
Yeah.
more likable than John McCain.
Yeah. At least Biden's gaps are kind of funny, you know? Like, if he wins, it'll at least be entertaining as he does terrible policies. It'll be like, I don't know. How do I guess the best parallel to like Biden would be like Yeltsin in Russia,
Hmm.
like someone who's very incompetent, and isn't really there, but is just kind of like, actually not even, because Yeltsin was more like competent in taking power and getting where he was. Biden has just been kind of put where he is. He's like in a wheelchair, and they just kind of wheel him onto the stage to be in power.
Someone asked if I had to vote for one of the Dems, who would I vote for? I mean, I think his name was Tim Ryan, who was like the populist, like congressman from the Midwest or whatever. That was funny. The governor from Montana was pretty funny. How he was physically removed from the race for saying that we shouldn't be giving illegal immigrants free health care, but
Hmm.
not giving it to Americans. Uh,
Yeah, no, you had a few of those people. I mean, Biden also said that to his credit. He's not on that policy, but I don't think he really has any of his own personal policies.
well, Biden
Um,
basically just had to defend his record um, under Obama, and
mhm,
just politics have moved so far to the left since then. He seems like a centrist or a conservative.
mhm.
Um, for like not um, for not wanting to like dismantle the police force.
Yeah, or like give kids gender transitions, you know, like because
Yeah.
he's not for that. He seems like a some kind of conservative, and really he's not.
No, he was, I think, pretty based on crime during the 1990s, from my
Oh
understanding.
yeah, he was. I mean, the Democratic Party then was actually pretty good on crime. Um, I mean, they're the ones who got the crime bill passed. They're the ones who, okay, the biggest shame to me right now is how the Republicans only attack on Biden and Kamala Harris is like from the left,
Hmm.
like, oh, they're cops and oh, they don't want to give black people opportunity.
Well, they put a bunch
Like,
of black people in jail.
yeah, like that's it. That's their only attack. When it should be, Kamala Harris wants to give, uh, you know, free college tuition and free healthcare to illegal
But
immigrants.
only
That
not
could be
not
the
to
attack.
Americans, but to illegal immigrants.
Yeah, yeah. Um, or that Biden is a senile old man. I think Trump's lost a lot of his like energy, you know. that he had.
Yeah.
Like the guy in 2016 won because he got on stage and called the opponent a corrupt bitch and said she should be in jail. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what won him the election. And now all he can do is be like, oh, radical left, you know, which is so boring and doesn't really like get at the heart of why people don't like these politicians. It's just kind of a boring attack.
He is very low energy.
Mhm.
Okay, Metaphysic asks, what's the main topic of this stream and who's the guest, by the way? There is no
Just some guy.
main topic. Daddy Duck is the guest, I suppose you could say. He's just the only person
is
from
what-
the server who's on at the moment, but anybody who's on the
I'm just some
server
guy.
can come on and talk. It's
Yeah, guys, come get on.
There's not really a particular topic,
Yeah, no, I don't have a YouTube channel. You can't follow me. Sorry, guys.
but yeah. So I think of like the people he had. I would have either picked her or Julian Castro.
Mhm.
Because Julian Castro, I felt like actually was pretty good at speaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Tulsi. Good old Tulsi.
Good afternoon, fellas.
Good evening.
So, what we're talking about today?
Whatever.
Biden. Whatever, really, though.
Ah. Honestly, I'm just surprised Biden survived. I'm honestly shocked he's still alive today.
Yeah.
Honestly, I thought he would have died like a couple months back.
They probably have him hooked up to like life support. There's probably like a life support machine like under his suit.
It's in his basement.
It's like fucking Darth Vader suit, dude.
Yeah, I'll say one thing though. Like, Biden being president would kind of be amazing. Because can you imagine just the random stories like he would tell?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, it's like when
It's
Yeltsin-
kind of like listening to Terry A. Davis, you know? Remember Terry Davis would just go on like random schizophrenic rants and be like, I remember this one time I hit this guy with my car, you know?
They glow in the dark.
They glow in the dark.
Corn Pop was a bad dude who ran a bunch of bad boys.
Yeah. I guess
I'm still waiting to. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, to answer the question someone asked of like who would you vote for in the primaries, I did vote in the Democratic primaries. I voted for Sanders. I voted on Super Tuesday, but not because I really like Sanders too much. I mean, some of the economic stuff is okay, but like, you know, it was him or Biden, and I didn't think Sanders could win in a general election.
Mm-hmm.
So I did actually end up voting. Not that he was my first choice, but
Well, I mean, if you were like a conservative, you might have as well just voted the Democratic primary because no one ran really against Trump. So
no. Yeah, there were a few, but it didn't really matter. There was like some libertarian guy, which who cares? Although I would, you know, appreciate someone who is not Trump as the Republican nominee, but that's not going to happen. So
it's too bad Mike Pence can't be the nominee.
yeah. Or Cruz, I'd take Cruz.
Trump is kind of like. Here's the thing with Trump: he's very similar to Rob Ford when he was mayor of Toronto, in that he is buffoonish and kind of retarded, but the people who are against him are the biggest. Word that rhymes with. I can't.
Maggot.
Yeah, word that rhymes with maggot that like I've ever seen. So it just makes me like kind of support him because like
Yeah.
I find a lot of like I find the Trump Twitter stuff is just kind of cringe.
Yeah, and like, you know, preferably we wouldn't have someone who's the head of our conservative party be someone who's on his third wife, you know. Generally that's not what you want. But
I mean,
like yeah, it's you take what you can get.
to Trump's credit, he didn't run as a family values candidate, really.
No.
So I'll give him like I'm not saying I approve, but at least he didn't run as like I'm Mr. Christian, but
Yeah,
I have all
he didn't
these
pretend to be something he's not, but I would prefer if he was a different something.
Honestly, my biggest fear is that you're going to end up with the Republican Party eventually becoming the Democratic Party of like 20 or of the 2000s, effectively. Because I see it kind of splitting off in two ways. Either it becomes kind of like a Japan model where it's vaguely conservative, basically just slightly conservative, and it's making a ruling a party, or it's kind of like I think it was Volbug, was it? And it just keeps dragging along with the progressive party line.
Now, I don't know, Japan's a bit different because Japan's basically a one-party state.
Japan is also their Liberal Democrat Party, which is their ruling right-wing party, is also run by a secret society that's ultra-nationalist.
Yeah, it
like
is.
Shinzo Abe is part of an ultra-nationalist secret society that wants to restore the monarchy and bring back the military. So
Based.
yeah, I mean it is pretty cool.
Japan never went through like the equivalent of denazification.
Yeah.
Basically, like what happened after World War II was they just picked a couple people, most of whom volunteered, and they blamed them for everything. And then a lot of the nationalists were kind of discredited, but to be fair, like they had led the country on like 2 decades of war that resulted in like just unmitigated disaster. But
Yeah.
you know.
Well, you mentioned this once in a live stream you did, but I do buy into the theory that like Hirohito knew about more of what was going on than he let on, or than like Western historians talk about, or Japanese historians especially. But like Hirohito certainly like did have power with the war effort and political decisions. He wasn't just a puppet to the military. He was just kind of made out to be like a helpless victim for propaganda purposes and to justify not getting rid of the Japanese monarchy.
Because firstly, you know who wasn't involved with the Japanese War Tribunal, so that's kind of part of it.
Yeah.
The thing with the Constitution was a bit more complicated, so it was to a certain extent imposed, but more kind of what happened was they just got like the Japanese liberals to write it. And the pacifism thing was like not entirely. I think the Americans probably would have preferred if they hadn't have had that, because then they had to like were responsible for Japan's defense. But just keep in mind, Japan had been through 2 decades of war rationing, forced conscription, the army being like extremely brutal. Like the army would just steal shit. Like no one really wanted to go back to that. So, and keep in mind, in a lot of cases, colonies are just like, do you really want to deal with that? Like, I think that's what happened with de Gaulle. He's like, do we really want to deal with Algeria anymore? Like,
yeah. Well, the end of colonialism was basically just like it's too much of a hassle and it's expensive. Like
Pretty much.
I see a lot of people in like right-wing circles talk about like, it's because we lost the will to no, it was more of like that's expensive and kind of a waste of time, and we're never gonna like fix it and make it the same as the home country, so why bother?
Well, I think it's kind of like yes and no. It really depends upon the saturation of European peoples in that specific area. Like South Africa back in the like 40s, 30s, 50s, 60s, it probably would have been great under a colonial model. As much as I personally like studying Bush War history, I don't think Angola, Mozambique could have lasted as Portuguese concessions, and I don't think Rhodesia, even if you had all the sanctions lifted off of it, could have survived in any form that would be recognizable today. It would effectively be Zimbabwe in the early 80s is what we would have today, just with more white people.
Yeah.
Well, Zimbabwe was never demographically viable. Like, what the Boers should have probably done is all move to one part of the country and then just separate and form, like, the new Orange Free State or something.
Well, the problem with that, Argent, is that all of the Boers effectively lived in Salisbury, Bulawayo, and the rest were incredibly scattered throughout the northeastern half of the country. So the only places they could conceivably move to, they're completely surrounded by enemies.
Right, and I mean, to be fair to the Boers, the British really, really fucked them, like really,
Yeah.
really bad, in how they like demographically just messed the whole thing up. The Boer War, I think, is one of the worst things that they ever did. Metaphysic really wants us to talk about the Belarus situation. I haven't actually read anything about it, so I don't really know.
I've looked into it a bit, but really no more than like mainstream news articles, which are just like, look at these happy protesters fighting against tyranny, which is all you ever get.
Pretty much the same for me. I've seen a couple of things on Poll, but I just skimmed it and went on.
I mean, hey, if you'd like to get on and talk about it, that would be great. But yeah, I mean, someone posted in this Discord a few days ago, someone describing the situation from what seemed to be a more pro-Russian angle. And like, I mean, from what I know of the situation, Belarus had an election, and there was accusations from the Belarusian government that Russia was trying to interfere, which doesn't seem like something they would do, because there's no point in destabilizing their neighbor and one of their last allies in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, the election was rigged, obviously. It's unclear if like Lukashenko would have won regardless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's entirely possible he would have, but like, you know, he's not going to risk it. So,
sorry, I just need
didn't
to
he
read.
Basically steer the country away from what was happening in Russia during the 90s? And basically made it a prosperous country.
Sorry, I just have to read a super chat. Brakir says, "Gonna squeeze chew, gray kitty creature," and then he sends me another super chat with a picture of a black cat on it. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. That's gonna go right to the bills.
But yeah, like I don't quite. Well, Belarus is not like a rich country. It didn't have some of the same problems with like oligarchy that Ukraine or Russia had.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not wealthy by any means. It's just kind of a country that exists solely on post-Soviet nostalgia. And like, yeah, that's about it. Which is a strange social structure to be like right-wing reactionaries about the Soviet Union, but you know.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
you're getting criticized for saying the election was rigged.
I mean, it probably was.
You know, at this point, what election is not rigged?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
that.
Here's the thing. Like, I think they probably do rig the elections in Russia, but I think like United Russia would win regardless.
Yeah, I think that is the case with Russia, but like winning with 80% of the vote does not seem too realistic to me.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like, you know, with the level of unrest going on, like the idea that only 20% of the population voted for someone else. I mean, of course, I don't know the voter turnout. I could be wrong on that, but it you know, maybe I'm missing something, but intuitively to me, it seems like there was some kind of rigging.
Yeah, I don't really know how it works in Belarus. I don't know a ton about Belarus. I think it is a colored revolution. The idea of Russia being involved is really weird.
Yeah.
The only thing I could think of was to destabilize it to take it over, but basically at this point in time, Lukashenko is more or less wants to restore the Soviet Union, or like a more centralized Eurasian Union. So I don't really know why that would be a thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree that like the Western, you know, powers are certainly trying to destabilize Belarus for geopolitical aims.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not up for dispute either. It's just like, to what extent is the unrest like natural and warranted?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I wish someone who knew more about the situation would get on. 'Cause I would like to know more.
I think it's a coup. Like, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah. It's just I don't know who would like forcibly remove him from power. Like the Secret Service, or like the military are the only obvious candidates, but I don't know.
I mean, they could be trying to force like a showdown so then they can invade on the
Hmm.
on like the basis of protecting like the civilians from the evil government. But I don't know. I've always liked Lyshenko. It's funny because he describes himself as being an orthodox atheist, which actually makes a lot. Well, there's a lot of orthodox atheists. I wouldn't be surprised if that was like the majority of Russia's population. But yeah, I know Belarus was one of the countries that supported the coup against Gorbachev. I think all the republics did except for the Ukraine and the Baltic states and Russia.
Mm. Yeah, that was a very good stream. If I can compliment that, the one you did with Serp about the fall of the Soviet Union, that one was really interesting.
Yeah, I want to have him on again sometime soon. He's kind of on a bit of a hiatus from video making, but he said that he'll come on and do a whatchamacallit, a stream about
A stream?
Kamala.
That'll be nice. Look forward to that.
Someone said, I think Lyshenko said it's better to be a dictator than to be gay. He probably did say that.
He did say that. I think some European, I think it was like some politician from Belgium or something, insulted him who was gay. And he was like, well, I might be a dictator, but I'm not gay.
Mussolini's daughter also said that, granddaughter said that. She's like, better to be a fascist than a rhymes with maggot.
Yeah. I mean, talking about Japan earlier, Italy is another state that did not go through much of a strong, getting rid of their Axis government.
Well, it's like the Axis government switched sides halfway through the war.
Yeah.
So, and it's really weird because it had a dictator, a monarch, and a senate.
Mm-hmm.
And the senate and the monarch sided with the allies. And the dictator was recalled because apparently you can do that.
Well, he served at the
ungodly
behest
reason.
of the... No, well, he served at the behest of the monarch. It's like how the shogunate ended because the last shogun was asked to resign by the emperor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then wasn't he captured by the German? Wasn't Mussolini captured by the Germans and reinstalled when the Germans invaded in, what was it, 43, 44?
Yeah, Mussolini actually wanted to retire, but Hitler said he was going to flatten northern Italy if he didn't go back. I think he said like Ravenna and Milan and like a couple of the other major like historical cities he was just going to destroy unless Mussolini went back.
Yep.
But
I hate it when people destroy cities, or at least important cities. I don't give a fuck about like infinite Chinese city number 7,556,000.
Yeah. Made up of the same concrete buildings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, all you have to do is like blow on one of the buildings, and they'll all fall down. So.
Yeah. But the GDP goes up if they construct more buildings, and they need those GDP numbers.
You must construct more buildings.
Yeah. Oh, that's something we could talk about. China recently signed an economic and somewhat of a military alliance with Iran. That's a development.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they flood their entire farming land?
China?
Because of the dam was overflowing, so they decided to say fuck it, and they just let all the excess water from the dam flood into the upland, highland. What's it like? It's not farmland. I think it's pastures or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they did that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just wiped out their entire what remained, I should say, of their meager food stocks since
China
the, what was
mode.
it? Yeah, because wasn't it swine flu, bird flu, locusts? I'm missing one. What was the other one? That wiped out their food stock earlier this year?
Oh, Alexander Lushenko's actually pretty tall. He's 6'2".
Yeah. Also, Boomer, are you Northern Irish?
No.
No? Oh, damn it.
Strangely enough,
I guess wrong.
I've never left like the Pacific Northwest, and everybody
Really?
says I'm Irish.
I've
never left.
Irish.
Everybody says
Okay.
I sound like I'm an Irishman.
What the hell? What is your accent? Okay. Strange.
Fucking. Everybody says I'm Irish. I just roll with it.
Alright, well, guess you're a Patty now.
Yep. Oh, I cut myself on that one. I was about to say Jim's favorite special word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, China and Iran, the Chinese are doing another thing where they're leasing a port in Iran for a bunch of money, which I think is a loan, which I mean, we can all predict what China will do. Yeah, a China loan, which I don't know how they keep getting away with it, where they give these governments like terrible loan conditions that they have no way of paying back, and then they're like, okay, this port's ours. Like, how do people keep falling for it? They've done it to Sri Lanka and Tanzania at this point. You'd think people would catch on.
I mean, well, these governments are all like corrupt and incompetent. I mean, China's just like, okay, so we have these retards, and like the white countries are all too like ethical to just fuck them over. So if they're not going to do it, we might as well do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, because they realize, like, these countries are corrupt and the people have no agency. So they're just, like, they're retarded, so they'll just sign anything to get money for the Gibbs.
Yeah. Yeah, you just gotta promise the guy signing it a bunch of things, and he'll do it. Yeah, it's like, baffling to me how they've gotten away with it so many times. But I guess I'm not thinking in the right way.
Well, China's very good at holding, I guess you could say, contradictory positions, or just being like a chameleon country, because like it's China's, like, the Chinese are still the most racist people on earth, but they like I actually I don't think they supported Black Lives Matter. But
No.
they like complain about racism a lot and like stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, they in the 80s I think had a big push for like cooperation with a few African countries like Mozambique or Angola or Ethiopia, all of which kind of ended once Mao went away.
I think Mao wanted African immigrants, but China was so shitty at that time that even Africans didn't want to go there.
Yeah. I've seen a few things. One time I was taking at college. I was taking this class about like Africa, and it was about like Chinese and African cooperation was what the lesson was about, and I was doing some of the reading, and part of the like lecture was like, it's a myth that China is using Africa for strategic purposes. It's just for money. It's just mutually beneficial trade is how they talked about it. And then I was doing one of the readings, and in one of the readings, like, it was a direct quote from some Chinese dude who was the head of some government ministry. And he was talking about like, yeah, we need to set up farming in Africa in case of a geopolitical confrontation with North America, so we can have a stable food supply. So China certainly views Africa as like a way of getting strategic resources, even if they're very good at propagating to African countries that they're just in it for mutually beneficial trade and infrastructure, which the Chinese then own. It's exceedingly obvious.
Someone asked, was Mao personally puritanical about sex? Okay, so I believe in communist China, under Mao, adultery was punished by death, but Mao personally had a lot of mistresses, and he encouraged his wife to just fuck random dudes. So
Didn't he also date like a 13-year-old at some point,
he
or
probably
like a
did.
13-year-old concubine? I guess date's not the right word. Yeah.
He he probably did. Um,
Hmm.
he was a man of great appetites, but well, because keep in mind, Mao had a like probably one of the biggest book collections in all of China. He had like
Hmm.
an immense number of books that he owned, but
Hmm.
he banned everything. Um, Actually, it's very similar because like what the first emperor did was he banned all books and then um, kept one copy of them and like burned the rest.
Hmm.
So let's see.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? The Indians I know really hate Chinese people.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's my experience too. It goes the other way too. If like Chinese people going to Indian people and be like, "You're not real Asians. You don't get to be part of this." Um,
You're not part of the co-prosperity sphere.
oh, of course not. They're the wrong type. They're South Asian, and that's different. Not part of Greater China.
Mm-hmm. It's funny how racist Indians are. I think they're no, well, they're the most racist people on earth. I think is what studies have
Well,
shown.
yeah, Indians are also super openly like anti-Muslim. I mean, with what's going on in India right now with the like anti-Pakistan stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are in India there are like lynch mobs that go around trying to kill like Muslim butchers because if you're Hindu you can't cook and eat cows, you can't cut up cow meat, so
Mm-hmm.
they'll go to like Muslim run butchers that like cut up beef and lynch them. Um, but yeah, they're super anti-Islamic, which makes sense. I mean, considering like if Muslims took over India, they would have no issue in their religious law with killing Hindus. But it makes sense from a self-defense perspective.
Hmm. Well, the thing to always keep in mind is Tiananmen Square was caused by anger over black students. Um,
Was it?
yeah, that was one of the main causes. Was they were tired of like black students uh, doing stuff with Chinese women.
Oh, I see.
There was something called the Great like they called it like the Great Wall, like the black student building. They like built a perimeter around to prevent them from bringing Chinese women back.
Huh. That's very funny.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah, apparently in China, like everyone learns about Tiananmen Square, but it's the kind of thing where like you'll have a classmate that'll pull you aside and be like, "Hey, have you heard of this thing?" When you're like 15, you know? It's just part of like a coming of age thing is you learn about Tiananmen Square. Like someone shows you some bootleg footage of it. Um, and you're not allowed to like really openly talk about it, but one kid is like, "Hey, have you heard about this thing?"
I think the thing to always keep in mind about China is China, like the Chinese Communist Party isn't based. There's just a certain part of the population that they have to pander to.
Hmm.
So anything kind of base they do is about that. Because this is also the government that had like the most brutal like forced abortion sterilization campaign in human history,
Hmm.
and that engaged in perhaps the most like successful destruction of like culture, like just in terms of how much stuff was destroyed during the Cultural Revolution is kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah, I don't, because I've also seen some people in these circles be like, "Ah, China is so based. Look how cool they are," and they don't seem to realize that the Chinese don't give a shit about you or like any of these things. It's really just trying to advance China.
Mm-hmm.
So it's completely contrast to your interest if you're not Chinese to be super pro China, talking about how China's based all the time. Yeah, like they don't give a shit about you. They view you as a dirty foreigner who will never be civilized. Uh, like I find that like I've talked about this in the survey before, but like Chinese immigrants to the West are usually fine up until they reach a point where they're like the majority of the population,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're super like clicky and exclusionary to anyone who's not Chinese. Not even everyone who's not Asian. Like everyone who's not Chinese, they won't accept.
Mm-hmm. Or even people who aren't from their particular part of China.
Yeah, yeah. Like Chinese people when they're like 20% of the population, pretty good. They just kind of assimilate and play a lot of Dota, and that's fine. But you know, it reaches kind of a critical mass where they don't try to assimilate; they try to assimilate you.
I think someone described modern China and probably the best way I've ever heard was modern China is a result of the worst aspects of Han peasant culture combined with the worst aspects of Marxist culture. And if you kind of find modern Chinese people obnoxious, that's the reason.
Mm.
Because during the Cultural Revolution, Red Guards like trashed Confucius's house because Mao really hated Confucius because of the idea because in traditional Chinese culture the idea was that virtue was more important than force, or that virtue
Hmm.
was a form of power, which is something Mao really hated. So,
Hmm.
let's see here. What's the YouTube name of the Discord guest? He's very based. I don't think he has a Danny
I
Duck
don't
doesn't
have a
have a
YouTube.
YouTube
Sorry,
channel.
guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can talk to me on Discord if you'd like to. But no, I don't have a YouTube channel.
Eric, I sent you a link on Twitter, so just feel uh, happy to respond. Once again, anybody who's on the server, feel free to jump in. Um,
Yeah, I'd like to talk to you guys. Um, let's see what else. Oh, Arjun, I was going through and watching some of your old like religious videos.
mhm.
Quite like them. Um, like the went through and rewatched the series on the arguments for the existence of God. It's pretty good.
Oh, okay. I had stopped doing those partially just because a lot of or a number of trads just said my takes were like really shit tier. So
Hmm.
I kind of got bull. I'm gonna admit I kind of got bullied
Yeah.
into
Uh,
stop making those.
yeah. No, I mean, they explain it in pretty like straightforward and simple terms. Um, like it's certainly easier to follow than like classical theist can be sometimes. I really like his content, but sometimes I have to pause the video and like rewatch stuff so I can kind of get what
I
he's
admit
talking about.
I find his stuff very hard to follow. That's not
Yeah,
like a reflection on him per se. It's just I think he's more for more advanced people than
yeah.
myself.
It's just the kind of language he uses can be a bit hard to follow sometimes. And I don't
Hmm.
think I'm too stupid, but it's it is good content. I mean, he explains it very well and thoroughly. It's just takes a while, but no, I really like his content.
I know him a little bit personally. He's one of like the nicest people you could ever meet.
Hmm.
He's a really good guy. Serp is a really good guy. Um,
Hmm.
I've known Serp for quite a while. He's a really good dude. Let's see here. When Dalai Lama outed himself as a white nationalist, that was the end of solidarity for Tibet. Yeah, that
Oh
was
yeah,
basically what happened.
yeah. The one where the Dalai Lama said something about like we shouldn't, Europe is for Europeans, and apparently you can't say that. Um, actually, I have one of his books. I think I got it as a present once. Dalai Lama's. It's exactly what you'd expect. It's just like standard Buddhist. Be nice to people.
Hmm. Well, I mean, he kind of has to take that position to be like consistent because if he's going to complain about like a massive number of like Chinese people moving in, then he kind of has to complain about the other stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, whoever the last couple people who joined were, I went in and gave you access to the general server. So let's see here. I think there is also a link. Is there a link to the Discord? Yeah, there's a Discord server link in the video description.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So let's see here. Okay, I'm just looking. So okay, so there's a couple more questions people had that I should put on the survey. Tier A, I think that's a good. That should definitely be on it. Tits or ass, and redheads, blonde or brunette.
The key questions in any political survey.
Mm-hmm. The questions of life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a couple people. Yep, if you guys want to come on, like, you just go into the general.
Don't be shy, guys.
You can see me in there. So. Yeah, at some point I have to move the server over to Riot.
Yeah.
It's just Riot is so shitty. Like, it's unbelievable how crappy it is.
Yeah. Isn't the concern with this one like it getting banned or having? 'Cause I know a bunch of like Endeavor's server got banned.
Mm-hmm. I would strongly suspect a lot of that was probably Chancellor Thursday running ops.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably watching this, and he's probably gonna like do a video now that I've indirectly mentioned his name.
You've accused him. You're gonna get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I tend to try to like not pay attention to like internet drama stuff, because to me, like a lot of it just is kind of boring, and it's just like men in their early 40s arguing with each other over who messed up. Like, you know. It gets like personal and not really about anything. Sometimes it's funny, like that time Mundane Matt doxed everyone. Not doxed everyone, tried to get everyone banned. That was kind of funny, but a lot of it's just like boring for me.
They're trying to do a redemption arc for Mundane Matt. Okay, sorry, just if I can do a digression. So the whole thing with Ralph is going on at the moment. So basically, Ralph was let's see here. Ralph was had a GF who was, I think, like, I'm just trying to think about, actually, just talk for a second. I have to deal with some stuff.
Okay.
On the, yeah.
Sure. Ralph, y'all may know him from the Ralph Retort, known live stream channel, internet blood sports guy. Known live streamer. I don't know. IBS. I really liked the IBS era. It was a nice time. There was actual like debate and people getting together to actually like talk with each other. Because I find a lot of times people kind of get stuck in their little internet circles and don't engage except for like shitty reply videos. But that was a good time. And then it was ruined by personal drama and people getting up in each other's face. And that really weird convention thing that no one showed up to.
Kilroy?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, no, that was a really good era of internet stuff when there was like, you know, the Sargon debates or people like actually engaging with each other on live stream.
Yeah, that was a good debate.
Over. Yeah. But yeah, it kind of pattered out because everyone got like way too personal about things, and people's like stupid personal lives ruined their careers.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here.
Or
Yeah, but so Ethan Ralph, so he had I think it was an 18-year-old girlfriend who he basically like groomed out of high school. I forget if she's a meth addict or whatever it was, but everyone's like calling him a pedo. And I don't know, it bothers me. Having sex with an 18-year-old might be sleazy or I mean, it's sleazy, it's grooming, it's bad, but I don't really see how it makes him a pedophile.
yeah, that's certainly. How old is Ralph? Like
36,
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that is certainly a bit sleazy, and not something I would do. I mean, I'm not 36 years old, but at that point in my life, hopefully I'm not in a position to be sleeping with random 18-year-olds. But like, yeah, that doesn't make him a pedo. Like, you can certainly like meme on him about it, but like,
No, I don't
not a
think you
pedo.
should meme about pedo. Like, that's the one thing I don't think you shouldn't ever
Yeah.
meme about.
Well, yeah, I don't mean like call him a pedophile. I mean like you can like call him like a sleazy old man. Like that's fine. It's fine to goof on people for that one, but calling someone a pedophile, yeah, that's a bit far. That's kind of life ruining if people get that on you.
Well, that shit doesn't wash off. Like, once you're called that, that's on you forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's stuck on you. Also, it's just you're not a pedo. Like, to be a pedo, you'd have to have sex with like a prepubescent girl. So they'd have to probably be like 11 or 12 or something. It's like it really bothered me when people called DSP a pedo. Like, even when his GF was like 31 and he was like 30, sorry, his girlfriend was 21 and he was 36 and they were still calling him a pedo. Oh, hello?
Hello. I think you can hear the.
Put your headphones in. I can hear myself come through.
It bothered me when people called DSP a pedo. Like, even when
can listen to you again.
Brian, put your
Brian,
headphones
hello?
in. I might have to mute you. Okay, well, let me know when you have headphones in. I just have to mute you because that's obnoxious.
Fair enough.
Let's see. Yeah, Ralph released a sex tape without her consent. Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that. Like that's certainly something you.
No, don't get me wrong. Ralph
criticize him
deserves
for.
the gas. Like, he needs to be put in the oven. I'm just saying that it's kind of a stupid avenue of attack. I don't think it's a fair avenue of attack, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah, like,
I also
criticize him for what he's doing.
I also hate this whole like sucking up to mundane Matt thing people are doing now. Where it's like,
did he ever like really like apologize for trying to get everyone banned?
Not really. There was some like really lame shit where he was like, I'm sorry for like, he just made like a blanket apology. But like, so Matt was saying like in response to this, by the way, I hadn't actually seen any of Godwinson's content other than the time he did the Liberalist Beer Hall Pushed video, but he's really cringy. Like, really,
I like some of his Lolcows stuff.
Yeah, but he's really cringy on this because he calls him, I think it's like Matt the Magnificent.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't follow so much his stuff anymore because it fell into like e-drama stuff. But his Jahan stuff is pretty good. If you're looking to wash the cringe out, if that's what he's doing now.
I never got into Jahan's because he just seems like he's a complete like retard. And
he's not like stupid. He's just like very autistic and makes terrible decisions.
I just kind of felt it was like too much of a soft target to make fun of.
No, Jahan's is like a legitimately dangerous person in my opinion,
Oh,
because
okay.
he's he has sexual fantasies about eating women.
What?
Yeah, he writes long-winded fiction about eating women and being like either a shark or a god or both, and going around the universe shrinking and then consuming women, and it's like sexual, and they're all like hot young blonde women that he consumes, and
So you're saying he's Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs?
effectively, yeah, but much fatter, and
The fuck did I just walk in on?
we're talking about.
I leave for 7 minutes moving furniture, and it's like, by the way. What?
Yeah, no, we're talking about Jahan's. If you're familiar with Jahan's,
No, but I'm very curious now.
he's a good lolcow. He doesn't produce any more content, or at least like he only I think tweets, and all his tweets are protected. He's like, how do I describe him to someone who's never heard of him? He's like British Christian is the closest
With
comparison.
more
People
agency.
make that up. Yeah, more agency. That's what makes him British. He's like a bit smarter, but he is just as autistic and more like okay. It's hard to describe Jahan's in like a few sentences, but basically, he's an autistic weirdo who lives in England who makes like leftist content and like talks about how great like the Green Party is and how much he loves Jeremy Corbyn and hates the Nazis. And he also writes fiction about eating women, and is generally a terrible person. So that's Jahan's. You can go look him up, but
So typical leftist. Got
I
it.
wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend it. Looking at him may make you vomit.
he is very unsightly. He he's got big old tits, like man tits, and that's not just because he's fat. Or while he is fat, he also has a disorder that causes him to not produce testosterone. So he has to take steroids to like be normal medically.
He has like the 2 X's and 1 Y.
Yeah. So he like has like female tits that lactate. And if you go back and watch old stuff of him,
Ugh.
he looks like kind of like a lesbian, you know? Like before he started taking testosterone treatment, he kind of looks like either a lesbian or a 12-year-old boy. But in those old videos, he's like a 24-year-old man who just happens to have no testosterone in his body and be a fat weirdo.
Oh god, this sounds like you're describing something out of like a Lovecraftian horror like.
He essentially
Book.
is that,
It's-
yeah.
It is so fucking disgusting. It sounds like something
Yeah.
you'd see out of like a really bad hentai manga on like D.
Yeah. I mean, he
What the fuck is this
yeah.
shit?
as I mentioned, he does make his own like written porn, which is just about like his self-insert character, which is a cross between a shark and a Doctor Who character, and a god, and it goes around the galaxy consuming women, but like seducing them and then shrinking them down and then eating them, which is disgusting, but that's what the fiction is about. And it's essentially just his like jerk off fantasy, which is also abhorrent. So yeah.
Arctic Warfare is asking who we're talking about. We're talking about Jahan's.
Yes.
Someone also asked about Abigail Shapiro. I don't. From everything people have told me, she seems like a nice girl, and I don't really like the way people troll her or beta orbit her.
Yeah. I looked at her YouTube channel a few days ago. Actually, I didn't watch any of it. I just kind of scrolled through it, and it's all just like girl YouTube stuff where it's like some chick sitting in front of her bed with like fairy lights, just like going on a long-winded rant about something for 20 minutes. But it's all like, the exact kind of content that anyone here would approve of. It's just like you know, how to dress modestly and how to like cook food, which I don't know about you guys, but I think is, pretty good content. Nothing wrong with that. Not something I'd like, but nothing wrong with it.
She
I
seems
don't see
like,
anything bad.
yeah, like she seems pretty like wholesome. I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like the beta orbiting
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a
because that's
little.
what it is. It's beta orbiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't take it too seriously. I mean, she's just sort of a meme. I don't really.
Yeah. I get it as a way of like messing with Ben Shapiro. Like that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But like her as an individual, it is kind of unfortunate that she can't escape that.
Did you see the laugh that Mr. Shapiro did recently?
Yes.
He looked like a puppet on Sesame Street.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty sad.
Yeah. Arjun, what's your opinion on Ben Shapiro?
Um, I'm just looking at Abby's. Okay, so like most of it just looks like girl YouTuber or like pro life stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. But what was I thinking of again? Actually, she is a pretty good looking woman. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. She kind of looks like Ben though.
She does, or I don't know if she's an okay looking girl. Um,
Yeah.
I prefer the beta orbiting of her than to AOC, which is just. Ugh.
AOC is not even attractive enough to warrant it.
She has
Like
big
at least
boobs though, so that's like the explanation I've gotten, but it's really just pathetic.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you asking me about?
Your opinion on Ben Shapiro?
Okay, so here's my story with Ben Shapiro. I only knew about him for a long time because someone told me to read his book, Porn Generation.
Mm-hmm.
And that was actually a really good book. He just really goes into detail about like how bad it is and how it victimizes women and how it's dealt like severe psychological damage to a whole generation. So like that was pretty based and wasn't really aware like of all the other stuff. But having like actually watched some of the other things he's done, yeah, I see why people hate him so much. He's kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah. I appreciate the social conservatism, but
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Hey,
no,
Johnny.
go ahead.
Hey, how are you doing, man?
Good. Yourself?
Very good. I got into your stuff through SerpCurp. You guys are pretty cool.
Thanks. He's a longtime friend of mine. He's a really good guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to stop in and talk a little bit, I guess. I guess like one thing that's been on my mind is about I think that the direction of the movement really has to be about being constructive right now, because I think that like it kind of turns people off, like how much of the movement is just sort of like complaining about like X, Y, and Z bad thing that's happening. And of course, it is really bad stuff. Arm attacks. This little boy that got shot recently. I think a lot of people like kind of tune out because of that. Like it's just so. There isn't like a whole lot of like, I guess, like round table like constructive strategizing. I do see that a lot more in like NRX circles. Like, I don't know if this would be like NRX really. I know you guys are like, Catholic, but I think that's like sort of where the direction of the movement has to go. It has to be about constructive dialogue, and when I say constructive, I don't just mean. I mean like actually building things. Like I think when Nick Fuentes he did this whole this whole thing at the sorry, I'm not like the best at speaking, but
no, you're fine. Go ahead.
when the whole Groiper wars were going on, that really like livened everything up. That totally shook everything up in, this movement, and I think that's something that people want to see a lot more of.
I think a lot of things are kind of cringy about Nick, but overall, I think he is a net positive, and I do respect him
Yeah,
for like at least trying to do something practical. Um,
yeah,
like I think people were too hard on him on the whole lolly socks thing. Like I
oh,
memed about it a
definitely,
bit.
yeah,
Like that didn't really bother me. I just thought it was funny to meme about it, but people were like actually upset about it. Um,
yeah.
but I kind of
Isn't Lolly
like the.
Socks the one?
Sorry. Oh, he was
Oh,
the
sorry. Go ahead.
cat boy he did a video with.
No, no, no. Wasn't he also the one who did blackface? Like, was it a
Yeah,
year ago?
that was pretty funny actually. Uh, I I mean the other ones he did I thought kind of fell flat a little bit, but I think he's a really funny guy. I certainly like watching some of his shows.
My only real issue with Nick is, and I really get it. Like I'm very sympathetic, but he realizes, like I think in realizing how defeated and kind of depressed and beaten down everyone is, every time something a little bit good happens, he goes like all and he's like, "Oh my, Trump's gonna do everything now. Trump's our guy. Everything's gonna be great." Like that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah,
and I get why he does that, and I'm not really like I can't really criticize him too much for that, but it does get a little. I think it's kind of worse to constantly like get people's hopes up.
Honestly, I
yeah,
think the best thing people in this sphere can do is not to ignore politics, but it definitely attempt to like distance yourself as much as possible.
yeah,
Still like try to keep track of it, but if you're watching it every single day, all day, it wears you down because you're just
yeah.
bombarded with bad news. And
It really started interfering with with my personal life. I really have to tune it out.
yeah,
Like it's
what's
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
just it's just constantly. I mean, like the first reason is that like what's important is structural. It's not really what is like these individual instances aren't as important like that. It's more about the big picture, and I think that's like you know I think that's a lot more important. I think we have to really just focus on long term, constructive and structural change. Um, and I think that there's a lot of good things, going on with this, NRX scene. I mean, there's just a lot of, um, I guess, like constructive roundtable strategizing, really, like talking about like actually organizing in, like through institutions, um, or whatever.
Mm. It's just for me personally. It seems like a lot of the problems a lot of people are expressing can be solved if I don't want to say abandoning like the core tenets. Like how most of the people in this sphere complain about not being able to afford a house and basically the wage cut meme.
Mm-hmm.
But you can buy a house. It just won't be in your state. So what I've always kind of figured is you'd work, you'd still live with parents, work as hard as you can, get a couple, $30,000-$40,000, and look for a house in like Alabama, Mississippi, or Nebraska, where they're like $50,000 for like a nice 4-bedroom, 2-bath, or whatever. Like, granted, yes, you're not living in your community, but you're getting started down the path. Is there really any potential future for you if you can't even afford housing? If you can't, build a life there? Is it really your community at that point? Or is it just a place you're living?
Well, I mean, part of the issue though is a lot of the jobs are in cities.
Well, yes, and that is true. Which is why I suggested getting up all the money just to buy it outright. So then you only have to worry about utilities instead of a house payment. Because then you just pick up a job in a local community. Sure, it's going to be shit, but you already own your house. The most expensive things.
I mean,
down.
I think the abandonment of urban areas and the fleeing to the suburbs is part of the reason why things went so bad. Because now the cities are just 100% pause, and they just kind of get worse as time goes on. So
I think that would have been an inevitable.
Well, I mean, it depends. I feel like none of this would have been inevitable if not for mass immigration. Because, like, as Sir points out, like, if there wasn't that, then eventually you'd get to a place where the Republicans would just win every election because of because liberals don't have children.
Well, yeah, I think there's a general demographic shift of who has kids, and it's not something you'll see like in one lifetime. But generally, most liberal people don't have children, and they don't like. Sure, they might have power in institutions, but like, they're not raising people to be like them, really. So, over time, and a long period of time, society would get more conservative. But
Well, that's why they
that's
needed
not.
immigration,
Yeah.
was to basically dissolve the people and elect a new one. Just something Sabian says. Like, here's the thing. Like, for me, I've lived in southern Ontario my entire life. And I get that if I were to go to, I don't know, Arizona or Montana or something, that people would think more like me there. But at the same time, it's like, that's not really my home. That sort of thing. Uh, it's just, I think it's kind of easy to say that, but at the same time, like, it's hard to just leave, like, where you're from. Even if the place you're from hates you, even if it's degenerate, even if it's shitty, it's still home. So, yeah. Just join the Amish community or the Mennonites. The Mennonites are shit, though. Like, why would you want to join the Mennonites? Like, half my
I heard
family are Mennonites.
I heard the fertility rate of Amish is so high that they're projected to become like the majority in like 200 years.
Yeah, well, they have like 7 kids, and because there isn't infant mortality anymore, like they all live,
Yeah.
and they support all of them because their standard of living is like pretty feasible, you know. Um, so they just have a shit ton of kids, um, which is good, I guess, but they're still a like kind of weird.
Well, it's not like I could even move to the United States for like the next like, I can't even go there now.
Mm.
Like on vacation or anything. So the border's basically just shut indefinitely because of Corona and the insanity that continues to happen down south.
Mm.
They should just give up. Like, at this point, just stop. Just go for herd immunity and don't even make like a pretense of doing lockdowns.
Yeah, I mean,
All right, I had to fix something, but Amish are not Americans, and you should not see them as Americans either. They are effectively a German enclave. They do not see you as countrymen. They see you as foreigners. You should not put any hope in the Amish. If they gain control, you're fucked.
yeah, I mean they do like call people who aren't them English because we speak English. Um, yeah, they are like a foreign people in a way.
Yeah,
Um,
it's going to basically devolve into the difference between French and Germans. You know, realistically, there's no genetic difference, but there's a linguistic one. And if a majority of the voter base is all speaking, Pennsylvania Dutch, well, just because oh, I look like you, well, fuck you. You're an English. You're an English dog. Fuck you. We're stripping away all your land. You don't own rights. So, yes and no, in that you can reliably trust them to an extent, but don't like throw your hat into the ring for the Amish because they're just gonna fucking backstab you.
I think what'll be interesting to see in occupied Palestine is when because the ultra orthodox are growing as a percentage of the population pretty rapidly. and they already kind of hold the balance of power. So I really wonder what's going to happen when they start winning. If they get to the point where they can actually form governments or lead governments, because I could see them being like ultra larpy, like revanchists.
Judean kingdoms.
Yeah, who want to like retake Greater Israel. The funny thing about it though is they refuse to serve in the army, so basically they're going to be drafting the rest of the Jews to serve in their like larpy wars of conquest.
Yeah, Israel has a really weird demographic problem because the people who have the most kids are the ultra orthodox who don't pay taxes and don't serve in the military, and Arabs who would prefer if the state did not exist. So like the more productive groups in society, like liberal and conservative Jews, have less kids. So they're generally declining as a share of the population. And since they're like the core population, that's not a really good formula.
I could see there being a military coup, maybe.
Yeah.
Once you get to full-on LARP territory.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Aren't the Amish passive? I don't know. The Amish are like... Ask Beck.
I don't believe in their pacifism. I just don't see the Amish if they're in a position of supreme authority and power. Like, maybe in the first generation, yeah, they'll be peaceful, but I just have a very cynical view of any one particular ethnic group becoming a super majority in a region and not being just balls to the walls, dictatorship now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see here. The Amish.
Can I step out for a second? 1 sec.
Alright, see you soon.
Yeah, my prediction for future America is small, tight-knit religious communities owning or being some of the most powerful. So, like the Mormons, since they're only like 1% to 2% of the population now, but since they're a very tight-knit community and are very like personally conservative in how they act, they're very high functioning and tend to do very well in institutions.
Also, they have a lot of children.
Yeah, exactly. And they have a lot of children and support each other. So, they'll be willing to, like, help out someone who is, like, 21 and already has a child when other groups do not have the same level of, in-group cohesion. So people are kind of left to their own devices. So groups like Mormons or others that are very tight-knit will continue to dominate.
Interestingly enough, I'd like to see, as a anthropologist type of view, because you effectively have Mexicans in the south, the Amish in the east, and then you have the Mormons in the Midwest and West and Pacific Northwest. So I'm just curious as to what the demographics would be.
It'll be interesting to see how much Mormonism grows in other countries, because it is a missionary religion.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at Nevada. It's sad how like these formerly red or purple states are now just dark blue.
No, it's all just recent immigration. Like, that's one of the things that, like, on My Civil War that, Tim Pool keeps pushing. I really have a hard time believing in that kind of event. Like, the left can do terrorism, sure, but actual ground civil war is pretty far-fetched. Even holding cities is far-fetched. Like, what army? You think Mexicans are gonna, line up to arm the battlements, we're gonna beat back all the racist conservatives? No, they're gonna flee back to Mexico. They're gonna be like, fuck you, green. Oh, I forgot you're streaming this, aren't you?
I don't think Gringo really matters.
Oh, well, it's a good, just to cover the case. But it's, your only main pool to draw from is the far left, soy boy liberals. And that's about it. Nobody else is gonna really fight for them.
Oh, okay.
You
So
know, everybody.
Colorado is currently
Sorry, go
ruled
ahead.
by a gay Jew. Literally.
Happens. It happens. Yeah. Well, I think you know, people like Tim Pool are always like, oh, there's going to be a civil war. I don't think that's going to happen. I think, you know, at most you're going to get an increase in political violence as that becomes more acceptable. It'll be like France, where every time there's a political controversy, there's just rioting, and that's how things are sorted out.
Whatever
makes sense.
happened with the yellow vest? Like, did the EU army destroy the yellow vests, or did it just?
I think it just.
As far as I
out,
know,
but...
I think. Yeah, as far as I know, I think they're still going, especially in the south of France.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. I didn't keep up with it too much because again, it's one of those things where there's very limited media attention on it.
Yeah, there was basically a complete media blackout on it.
Mm-hmm. I think France too. I think the difference. Okay, so remember like 4 or 5 years ago when there was the huge wave of populism in like a lot of North America and Europe. A lot of the countries that never ended. So like France and Germany, that's still going on.
Mm-hmm.
In like America or Britain, that got sorted out because like the populist right and the populist left just got integrated into the mainstream right and left wing parties.
Sorry, which country is this?
I'm just talking about like Europe and North
Mm-hmm.
America in general. Like in the United States, like populism was kind of embodied with Trump, and then he just became a normal Republican once he got some of the demands integrated into like the Republican platform. But in like a country like France, where the political center refuses to work with the far right or the far left, what you end up getting is like increased radicalization and like people getting more and more upset because their demands are never met at all. Like we can be mad about Trump, you know, not fulfilling all of his campaign promises, but at least he got into office. If you live in like France, like the Front National is not going anywhere.
Well, because they specifically changed the electoral system to make it impossible for them to win elections regardless of what percentage of the vote they get. So that's basically how it's set up at the moment.
Yeah. And same with Germany with the AfD or the left, which is their left-wing party. Like the center parties refuse to work with them, so they just get more and more radicalized.
It looks like the Green Party might actually win. Oh no, did it change back again? Okay, it switched back again. It looks like, so basically it just looks like the Christian Democrats are going to run Germany forever at this point in time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you're in Germany, like, who else are you going to vote for? I guess you could vote for the AfD, but Germany, I don't know. Germany has like a mixed electoral system, so I'm not sure how it works exactly. Like, let me look at what percentage of the seats, if the AfD actually gets any seats. Okay, they actually get a fair number. They're the third largest party at the moment.
Yeah. But I mean, in any multi-party system, you know, parties have to work together, and everyone just stonewalls the AfD. So unless they become the biggest party, they're just going to be locked out of parliament forever.
I do think that it does destabilize Sweden's political system somewhat. The refusal to let the Swedish Democrats participate, even though I think they're the second largest party.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The popularity of these groups continues to grow, but every other section of politics refuses to work with them. So you just end up with an increasingly radicalized and growing portion of the population that does not want to collaborate.
Unfortunately, in Denmark, the left adopted anti-immigration rhetoric, so all the socialists who voted for the the right-wing populists went back. So
yeah.
It's interesting in Italy because it looks like. Let me just look at what the next Italian election. the next Italian election, like it looks like the two far right
There we
parties
go.
are going to
back.
collectively get a majority of the vote. So let's see here. At the moment, the Brothers of Italy is set to get about 15%, which is like the successor of the Fascist Party, and Liga is going to get about 30%. So they're members of the same coalition. So who knows? The last election was kind of a clusterfuck. I think at the moment the five-star movement's in power. I really never know what to make of them, but I'd say Italy is definitely going to shift rightward in the next election.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the trend in a lot of Europe, like starting from the east and moving west, is a shift toward right-wing politics. Like in Hungary, I mean, there's Viktor Orban's party. And then, like, the second biggest party is, like, LARPy far-right, like, pan-Turanists.
Yeah.
Jobbik, which is, like, probably one of the most LARPy ideologies you could have. But the fact that
Hungary the nation that put the, what was it, anime figure up with, like, the gypsy crime stats?
No.
That's
Wait,
maybe?
I haven't seen that. That's funny, though.
No, I think it was, like, I know the anime, it was, like, ReZero. It was one of the characters from there, and it had, like, all the crime stats from the gypsies commit in Hungary or some country like that. And it was in the middle of, like, a train station.
That's kind of funny.
So, actually, what's interesting is what happened in Spain is Spain has a far-right party now, and they're actually the third largest party, and they kind of came out of nowhere in the last election.
Oh, yeah, Vox.
So Vox gets like 15% now, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the Conservatives get 23 and the Socialists get 27. So, is Ireland's government right-wing? I thought Ireland was governed by like a gay half-Indian.
Well, but he's right-wing, with quotes around it. Yeah, Ireland, okay, so for a long time they had a two-party system and both parties were center-right. And then the only left-wing party is Sinn Féin, who recently almost won an election but didn't quite. But since it's like two center-right parties, neither are that socially right-wing. It's just kind of like bland economic conservatism, for the most part. I mean, ever since they like abandoned any restrictions on abortion or anything else you'd expect out of Ireland. Yeah, like Ireland is nominally right-wing, but like
no, it's
not in the way we would want.
I mean, Ireland is like... Ireland's really weird, because, like, it's very unusual for countries to legalize the shit they have through referendums. It's almost always Supreme Courts. But, let me look at Ireland. Is Ireland the most far-left country in the world? No, Ireland isn't. I don't know what I'd say is. I guess it depends how you want to define it.
Wouldn't the most far left be like somewhere like the Netherlands or like Sweden?
Or an actual left-wing country? North Korea? China?
Well, North Korea I'd say is third position.
Oh yeah, true. It is a monarchy.
Yeah. I would say
I'd
say Venezuela is far left, like an actual far left country. I don't see too many.
Can you even classify Venezuela as a country anymore? Isn't it more like a proto-failed state?
It's more like a big GTA server.
Yeah. Well, yeah, yes, pretty much. Let me see here. I'm just looking who the leader of Ireland is. Ireland tried to like reinstate Gaelic, and they have all these like rhymes with "hey" language words for everything. The Taoiseach, I guess that's the prime minister.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Wasn't Wales the only country that successfully reintegrated its own authentic language? Well, all the others basically just said, "Fuck it, we're going to use English."
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Ireland, like, on all public things, like in airports, road signs, the police, everything is in Gaelic and then English, which is really annoying. I know Scotland tries to do that sometimes, but they don't really because people just speak English.
Well, Scotland's divided in geographically in half. The population-wise, I believe it's only what 20-30% actually know any Gaelic at all.
Yeah, and
they're all living in one half of the country.
Yeah, I mean most Scots live in southern Scotland. Like the Highlands is very empty.
Yeah,
so
like if you're southern Scottish, you're basically English at that point. You're LARPing English, is what you are.
If you ever get the chance, whatchamacallit is really beautiful. Edinburgh is a really beautiful.
Yes, Edinburgh is very beautiful. Yeah.
The problem with Scotland is it's full of Scots.
Yeah.
The Chad Anglo needs to sort that out. Just saying.
No, I'm just joking. I have Scottish ancestors. In Canada, Scots are just considered English pretty much outside of Halifax. Sorry, outside of Nova Scotia or New Scotland. Hello?
Hello.
Oh. My mic was off.
Oh.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome
I was reading this Wikipedia page for anti-Irish sentiment, and I found something pretty interesting. And I was thinking about some of like, what do you call it? The fact that a lot of like oppression narratives just end up like not being true. This is a quote by King Henry's son John in 1185 when he was on a trip to Ireland. They use their fields mostly for pasture. Little is cultivated and even less is sown. The problem here is not the quality of the soil, but rather the lack of industry on the part of those who should cultivate it. This laziness means that the different types of minerals with which hidden veins of the earth are full are neither mined nor exploited in any way. They do not devote themselves to the manufacture of flax or wool, nor to the practice of any mechanical or mercantile act. Dedicated only to leisure and laziness, this is a truly barbarous people. They depend on animals for their livelihood, and they live like animals. And he goes into all these details.
If we're gonna like not meme for a minute, and this is gonna be like,
a lot of what would be viewed as like very backward stuff. I do think that there is some sort of truth to the anti-Irish. I haven't really read a whole lot of like, I haven't seen like a whole lot of literature on it. I've read a report from some Scottish people. I forget the name of it, but they're basically talking about how like Irish immigration would mean a regression of civilization. I'm kind of curious to see like what those people were actually like, because there always is like a kernel of truth, especially when it's like someone that doesn't like you is describing you. There's typically a lot of truth to it.
If we're gonna not meme for a minute, and I'll go back to memeing about how the Irish rebels need to be crushed and that sort of thing. To be honest, I think that the English did treat them like complete shit. I don't think it was like right what they what they did. I would have liked it if Ireland could have been like integrated into the UK like Scotland or Wales was, as kind of a more, I mean, I'm sure like the Irish and the Welsh actually don't complain about being oppressed that I've ever really seen. The Scottish complain about it, but it's like obviously bullshit. The Scottish did very well by the British Empire.
A lot of them got like first dibs on nice property.
They were disproportionately represented in like the Irish, in the officer corps, like the merchants, that kind of thing. You also had like in Nova Scotia, literally New Scotland, they got a lot of them settled in America. I've never really heard of, like, at least in Canada, the Scots facing any kind of discrimination. I mean, there was a lot of Scottish presidents, like Monroe, Andrew Jackson, I think Andrew Johnson.
Yeah, a lot of people in early America were of Scottish descent, because a lot of Scots moved to America and got the first dibs on like nice plantation property. So they were able to become part of the upper class in the colonies. Yeah, like Scotland has done very well from being tied with England, and a lot of the like Scottish nationalist rhetoric about how they've been put down doesn't really make much sense. They're not really too distinct from England, especially the ones who live right next to the English.
There's also like an island. I mean, there's more like they're actually connected, whereas like, you know, Ireland is like a whole separate island, far out in the ocean.
Yeah.
I have always wondered what politics on the British Isles would have been like if Rome conquered the entirety of both of the islands. Like, would have actually survived as like a proto or a post-Roman state, or would have just been completely just wiped away by
I think the same thing pretty much would have happened.
Elon,
Really?
I have actually been to Scotland. I spent quite a bit of time there. Yeah, well, I understand that like there are cultural differences between Scotland and England. What I'm talking about is like they're not as different as they think they are. Certainly it is separate cultural regions. However, like it's I think it's overstated.
Yeah, Arjun, here's the picture. Vex posted it in the general. It was Hungary.
Okay, let me just see if I have enough agency to put it up. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, I put it up on the stream. Yeah, it's what's her name? Rem from ReZero.
All right, well, I'm gonna head out.
Okay.
Nice talking to you guys.
Thanks for
having
being
me
on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Later.
Later. Yeah, well, as I've said in the past, my surname and my paternal side is Norman. Actually, it's funny. 23andMe got even the part of England my father's side is from, right? Which is interesting.
I have to do 23andMe one of these days. I just don't have a lot of money. Isn't it like $100-something?
I don't know what it is. It's really weird how they do it in 23andMe, because there's the version that has the medical stuff and the version that doesn't have the medical stuff.
I'm pretty sure some of my ancestors come from Dunbartonshire in Scotland. But I know some of my on my mom's side, a lot of them were they snuck through Canada in the backs of cars, from places like Newfoundland and the Thousand Islands. Apparently, they all look like me up there. So.
Newfoundland, yeah. Newfoundland is widely mocked in the rest of Canada.
I've heard you're very pessimistic about the future of Canada. I did read recently that most of the traffic for quote unquote hate speech websites comes from Canada. The vast majority comes from I believe it's I forget the percentage, but most of it is Canadians.
Into America, you mean?
Unlike sites like the Daily Stormer and stuff like that, most of it comes from Canada. Apparently.
Oh, interesting.
I think it's I do think there is hope. I do think that there is hope. I think one thing that I think is important to remember is the fact that while demographics are very important, they're only important in the context of the democracy. And also, I mean, you got to remember too is that the people that kind of overthrew us, I guess, they were a very, very small group of people. So I don't think it's entirely hopeless. I do think, though, that we have to address the fact that a lot of these old nationalisms have been watered down permanently. And I think that's a much bigger thing to address because, all of these, all of our culture has been diluted and sort of mixed together to where when you actually have nationalism in places like France or Italy or wherever, it's just like flag waving. It's there aren't really as strong of I guess distinctions as there once were. To where like when you go on like a trip through Europe, it's just sort of like going on like a college or like going to different gift shops, right? All of this technology and culture has just been spread all over the world. And I think that, one idea I've had, and it's just sort of a rough idea, but I think that, for there to be a right-wing, I guess, response to internationalism, globalism, I think that we have to address the fact that our countries are, our identities have been kind of muted, and we kind of have to construct new identities from the scramble of triviality and in meaninglessness, to take these deconstructed parts and to build them into something new. And some guy in this Discord server, he called this cultural futurism, which I thought was a good term for it. I think that we have to think about, constructing, I guess, new cultures and new societies from the ground up. Maybe that's something that we could do.
Right.
I kind of agree with you, yes and no. I think it kind of really depends upon where you are and what your specific cultural situation is.
Oh, definitely.
I'm a WASP, and that's basically one of the subcultures, so on, that's been effectively looked over.
Yeah.
It hasn't been corrupted as much as it's just been ignored and overwritten.
Yeah.
So I can fall back on my WASP culture and be like, yeah, this is what it is.
I wish WASP culture was the way that, I wish that the world was the way the left seemed it. There's some, documentary they keep pushing called The Family about, the Christian supremacists that control America. I wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would,
yeah. I think
just makes me sad now.
But the thing is, I don't think that there's, I think that we have a lot of potential within us. I think that it's just, so far unrealized. But not entirely, but I think that, we have, we're very gifted people, I think. I think that we're a lot smarter than regular people. I mean, to figure this stuff out is it takes a lot of, I think, brain power and a lot of fortitude as a person to really come to the conclusion seriously. And I think that there is a lot of hope. I just think that it's obscured by what we're losing, and the ground that's going to be lost. I think one thing that I really took away from, I know it's really cliche, but Sun Tzu, he says that, if you know yourself and you know your enemy, you need not fear the outcome of 100 battles. And I think that in the long term, I think that we will prevail because really, I mean, our enemies are in a dungeon of their own fantasy, and they can't really operate in some ways that we are able to operate. I think it'd be a lot more concerning if it was tables were kind of. I know this might not sound. You kind of get what I'm saying. If the tables were turned, it would kind of be like what it was in like the early 1900s, or like you had like these cliques of people that didn't really have that much power, but that were able to really size up, what they were up against, and in the end that they were successful. They were able to subsume this power structure, this global power structure, or power structures. Again, not the best at speaking, but I think what's really important right now is just to continue to revise what we know about, our enemies. We have to really understand this situation as completely as we possibly can. My views tend to change, week to week. I'm always encountering things that challenge my earlier preconceptions, and I think that's a good thing. I think that looking back at, some of my previous views on this ideology, I don't think that I saw it completely correctly. I don't think I would be as able to actually build something that works. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. You guys there?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm there. It's just I'm having a hard time. I kind of toned in and toned back out, and then I toned in again, and I'm completely lost. I've been trying to, I get I kind of understand it, but I'm also kind of like, my mind's been fried from too many memes, effectively. Like short, choppy sentences. I have an attention span of the gnat.
Yeah. Well, what I'm just kind of saying is, like, the important thing is that we just continue to study and become a lot wiser about what we're up against. That's really what's going to, I think, save us in the end, because, when things are actually moving and we actually have some sort of oh, wait, I think.
Oh, did he drop? Oh, no, there he is.
Yep.
Did you drop out, or did you lose connection?
Your audio was cut out. I had to refresh.
Oh. Yeah, I think I do agree. Like, you can't really stop.
Oh. Well,
yeah, there's some weird stuff going on with the audio.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
I might just wrap it up here anyways, just because it's been 2 hours. And I'm going to go do some other stuff, I think. Thanks for coming on, guys. That was good. Actually, I had a pretty good turnout, so I'll have to do another of these fairly soon.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. Good. Thanks for being on, guys. So, everybody, I just want to say thank you for tuning in. We're going to have the traditional abrupt argent cutoff. So God bless. Enjoy what little's left of your weekend. And, keep your stick on the ice.